You've done it. You've found a group of people who are willing to meet consistently. They're all interested in the same game system as you, and they've engaged in both the story and their characters. Congratulations! But you got this tingling in the back of your mind. Right now, it's just a faint little spark, but soon it will grow into a blazing ball of anxiety. How do you end the game? For so many people, the idea of getting a consistent game going is such a pipe dream that they never even have to think about this. But nothing can kill a group's enjoyment of this campaign and the next one than not knowing when it's time to end a campaign. But we need to answer the question: how do you know when it's time to end things? Number one, the story is over. Now, this may seem like a nothing point. Of course, the campaign ends when the story is over. I'm gonna go watch something more important, like Legal Kimchi's video on metagaming. Well, wait just a second and let me explain myself. And then after this video, definitely go watch that other video, because Legal Kimchi is a great YouTuber, and tell him I said hi and that his baritone is like a lovely mug of hot chocolate to me. What I mean to say when the story is over, I mean when you look at all the elements of your campaign, the main story threads, the player characters' personal stories, major NPC side quests, are all of these things in the context of the tone, theme, and stakes of the campaign done? Are there any more stories to tell? Because a lot of times when you're planning your campaign before things even get started, you have this grand epic finale in your mind where the players face down Orcus and his death cultists as the city burns around them. But a dozen sessions into the campaign, you realize that your players are far more interested in the inner workings of the politics of the city, of the machinations of the powerful people and how they can influence and manipulate things. They sprint towards social encounters and do their best to talk people down from fights. So perhaps their heist to steal the documents of the actual line of succession, and thereby elevating the lovable pauper that is the long-lost prince, and oust the evil queen that threw out the child of her husband from his first marriage. Maybe that's the epic conclusion to your campaign. And actually, the big reveal that she is a cultist and has been manipulated by Orcus this whole time would actually undercut the stakes and the tone that your players and you have established for this campaign. So just take the Orcus stuff, save it for the next game. Additionally, there's this pervasive impulse, especially for newer DMs and players, that a campaign can't end until you get to the highest tier of play, level 15, 16, even 20. While I understand this, and I also begin salivating when I look at what a new character I've created is going to be capable of at level 18 through 20, with the exception of one-shots that are specifically designed with the players starting at level 20, I've never had a character go beyond level 18 in any campaign that I've played. And if you feel like the story that your table has been telling is wrapping up at level 14 or 15, then the last thing you want to do is tack on an Act 4 just to get those additional levels to where the players can use their cool abilities later on, at the same time sacrificing the story that you've been telling. Number 2, disengagement. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You wake up and it's the day of the game. This day has previously been one of joy and excitement, nervous energy, frantic planning. But today you decide. You haphazardly look through your notes and think to yourself how little you can plan in order to get through tonight. And then your players show up, you all sit around the table, and they're frequently looking at their phones. They can't recall plot points that you introduced minutes ago. And the vibe at the table resembles a cubicle farm as opposed to a night where friends are hanging out and playing a game together. I've had this happen to me before, personally. I was continuing to run the game out of obligation to my players. My players continued to play in the game out of an obligation to the story I was telling. And it wasn't until an hour into one of the sessions where I called a timeout and I asked everyone, are you all having fun? No one screamed at me. No one berated me. In fact, no one said no initially. But there was the pause. I know you all know what pause I'm talking about. The one where when you're being vulnerable and honest with somebody and you ask them a question and are seeking feedback, they begin to do calculations in their head. Should I lie or should I be honest? If I'm going to be honest, how can I do it diplomatically? And they're frantically thinking about how to respond in a way that's not going to hurt your feelings. That pause told me everything that I needed to know. I didn't even wait for them to tell me no. At the time, we were running the Fantasy Flight game Star Wars system. We had just started playing it, and I was super excited about the rules. And when I asked them about the actual game mechanics, they were all really enjoying that, just not the Jedi-focused story that I was running. So I asked them, what aspect of Star Wars do you all want to play in? And I got back a resounding smugglers, bounty hunters, scum, and villainy. So with the rest of the night, we ran an impromptu session 0, created a party, And then the next session, we were able to start a brand new campaign driven by what the players really wanted to experience in the Star Wars set. The last thing I will say about Disengagement is that it could be a symptom of simple burnout. Maybe you're tired of running this particular story right now, but you know in just a couple levels there's going to be some epic stuff that you have planned and you're ready to go, and so you just want to push through to get to that point. Maybe your players aren't fatigued with the story, but rather they're a little tired of the system. They've been only playing one game for so long, and maybe it'd be fun to switch it up and play something different. In both these cases, you don't need to pull the plug on the campaign entirely. Maybe just find an ending point for this season of the campaign. Find a compelling stopping point and then take 3 to 6 months. Switch things up, play a different game, switch to a board game night, even see if one of your players wants to DM for a while. And then once you've had a chance to recharge your batteries, everybody's gotten a chance to experience something new, when it's time to pivot back to the campaign, everybody's going to be a lot more excited to hit the ground running and start things up again. Number 3, life gets in the way. I promise the following example will make sense, just bear with me. In 1975, the band AC/DC released their debut album High Voltage, and they gained quite a bit of popularity over the next 5 years, until tragically their lead singer Bon Scott died. The band took some time to grieve, they even considered calling it quits, but they decided, at the behest of Bon Scott's family, to continue on. And so they found a new lead singer, Brian Johnson, and they released their most successful album to date, Back in Black. Later, in the same genre, a young band called Rage Against the Machine took the world by storm with their anger-fueled, politically driven brand of hard rock. After just under a decade together, the lead singer of the band, Zach De La Rocha, decided it was time to call it quits and left the band. The band was left wondering what to do next, and they decided it was time to find a new lead singer in the form of the late Chris Cornell. But the band's new sound and message was distinctly and intentionally very different from Rage Against the Machine, so they ultimately decided to rebrand and call themselves Audioslave. Okay, so how does any of that relate? Well, people move. People decide they don't really like tabletop RPGs anymore. Couples break up, or any other number of life events can occur that results in one or more players leaving the table. When that happens, a question needs to be asked. How vital was that player and their character to the campaign, both story-wise, tonally, thematically, or any other number of ways? If their character had some really compelling personal quests going on, but nothing that intrinsically linked them to the core of the campaign, then maybe your group can take the AC/DC route. Continue on, persevere, and maybe you'll do even better with a brand new face or a small, more tightly knit group of players. You can give an explanation for their absence, or if you're really lucky, have that one final session with a proper send-off for the player that's leaving your group. But if their character was related to the big bad, their story was tied into the core theme of the campaign, or if you just simply know that the game won't feel the same without them, then maybe it's time to end things and start something brand new. You can run one final arc to give a sense of closure for the remaining players if you want, and this is absolutely a call that you should bring the rest of the players in on to see how everyone else feels, because you might feel differently than the rest of the table, and then that can be a longer conversation that occurs. But at the end of the day, it may be best to just start fresh with a brand new sound. But at the end of the day, the decision to end a campaign is never an easy one. But if you've just ended a campaign or you're looking to start up a brand new one, be sure to check out this video for my top tips for DMs on running a game. Thank you all so much, and I will see you next time.